Picture this. You are lying on your back in a field, far from city lights, and the sky above you is doing something it almost never gets to do anymore. It is showing you everything. Every star, every smear of the Milky Way stretching overhead like a river of ancient light. And somewhere in that moment, without choosing to, you feel it. That pull, that quiet, almost embarrassing certainty that we cannot possibly be the only ones here. It is not a thought exactly. It is older than thought. It sits somewhere below language, in the same part of you that flinches before you consciously register danger, or smiles at a face before your brain has finished processing it. It is instinct. And instinct, for most of human history, has kept us alive. But here is exactly where it betrays us. Your instincts were built for survival on the ground, finding food, reading people, dodging danger. They are extraordinary tools for those problems, but the cosmos is not one of those problems. Applying human intuition to the scale of the universe is like using a bathroom scale to weigh a continent. Not just inadequate, the wrong instrument entirely. And the moment you replace feeling with physics, the moment you sit down with the actual mathematics of distance, energy, and time, that comfortable assumption that someone must be out there collapses completely under the weight of 5 separate, merciless physical realities. None of them are opinions. None of them are pessimism. They are the universe telling you, in the clearest language it has, exactly what it will and will not allow. We are going through all 5 today. And I want to warn you now, by the time we finish, you might feel smaller than you ever have. But you will also understand with absolute clarity why no one has come and why no one ever will. The first verdict, and the one that destroys our intuition before we even leave the ground, is distance. We say the word space like we understand it. We toss it around casually in conversation. But we genuinely do not understand it. Your brain is wired to grasp distances you can walk, drive, or fly. London to Sydney, about 17,000 kilometers, is probably your ceiling. That is where human intuition quietly gives up. So let's climb the ladder of scale together, one step at a time. Start with Earth, a rock 12,742 kilometers wide. To you, an entire world. To the universe, a grain of sand on an infinite beach. You can fly around it in less than 2 days. It feels manageable. Now step back. The sun sits 150 million kilometers away. Light, the fastest thing in existence, takes over 8 minutes to cross that gap. Think about what that means. If the sun vanished this instant, silently and completely, you would still be standing outside enjoying sunshine for 8 more minutes before the darkness arrived. You would smile, check your phone, and have absolutely no idea that the center of our solar system had just ceased to exist. That is our immediate neighborhood. Now take the next step. The nearest star beyond our sun is Proxima Centauri, not a distant galaxy, not some smudge on the edge of the observable universe, just the neighbor next door. It sits 4.24 light years away. Your intuition hears 4.24 and thinks, that sounds manageable, 4 of something. But 1 light year is 9.46 trillion kilometers. Multiply that by 4, and your brain quietly gives up trying to picture it. So let's translate it into human terms. The fastest object humanity has ever built is the Parker Solar Probe. It travels at 692,000 kilometers per hour, fast enough to get from New York to Tokyo in under a minute. By any human measure, this is unimaginably fast. Aimed at Proxima Centauri, That probe would arrive in 6,600 years. Let that settle. If you had left Earth at the exact moment workers were finishing the Great Pyramids of Giza, traveling at the fastest speed humanity has ever achieved, you would be arriving at the nearest star right about now. And when you got there, you would find a dim red dwarf with no confirmed habitable planet. 66 centuries of travel to reach an empty parking lot. That is the next door neighbor. Now scale up. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, stretches 100,000 light years from edge to edge. Crossing it at Parker Solar Probe speed would take hundreds of millions of years, longer than the entire evolutionary history of mammals on this planet. You would not just age and die on that journey. Your entire species would evolve into something unrecognizable before reaching the halfway point. And the Milky Way is just one of roughly 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. The numbers do not just exceed human intuition, they mock it. But as overwhelming as distance is, it is only the first wall. Because even if you were somehow willing to travel for thousands of years, you would immediately run into something that makes distance look almost forgiving. Most people think of the speed of light the way they once thought of the sound barrier. A technical challenge, an obstacle that clever engineering will eventually overcome. We broke the sound barrier after all. Surely with enough time and technology we can break the light barrier too. This is the most seductive and most dangerous mistake in all of popular science. The speed of light is not an engineering limit. It is not a wall that smarter engineers can one day knock down. It is a structural property of reality itself. It is the speed of causality, the maximum rate at which any event anywhere can influence any other event anywhere else. It is woven into the mathematics of how space and time actually work, and Einstein showed us exactly why over 100 years ago. Here is the trap. In everyday life, push something harder and it goes faster. Everything feels linear and proportional. But as you approach the speed of light, physics stops being linear. It becomes asymptotic. The curve bends upward toward infinity and never arrives. As you accelerate an object toward that boundary, its effective mass increases. The harder you push, the heavier it gets. The heavier it gets, the harder you must push to maintain acceleration. And as you approach that final line, the energy required does not just grow very large, it approaches infinity. To reach 100% of the speed of light requires infinite energy. Not a lot of energy, not all the energy in the solar system, literally infinite energy. There is not enough energy in the entire observable universe to push a single grain of sand across that final line. Not because we have not built the right engine yet, because the mathematics of space-time will simply not permit it under any circumstances whatsoever. You can get to 90% of light speed with enormous effort, maybe 99% with staggering resources, maybe 99.9999% if you harvested the output of an entire star. But you will never reach 100. The asymptote never touches the axis. The universe does not negotiate this and grants no exceptions for civilizations sufficiently advanced or sufficiently desperate. And here is what this means for the alien question. When people ask why aliens do not simply travel faster, the answer is not that they lack the technology. The answer is that they live in the same universe we do. They obey the same Einstein. No matter how ancient their civilization, no matter how many billions of years they have had to develop their science and engineering, that speed limit applies to them as absolutely as it applies to us. The laws of physics are not regional policies. They are universal. Let's grant every assumption. Someone solves the energy problem. They have the ship, the fuel, the technology. Now they face something no amount of engineering has ever fully conquered: the human body. We were shaped by millions of years of evolution for one specific environment, one gravity, standard atmospheric pressure, Earth's magnetic field filtering incoming radiation. Remove any of these conditions, and the body does not just struggle, it begins systematically dismantling itself. Space is an active radiation environment. Cosmic rays are high-energy particles, protons and heavy ions, moving at fractions of light speed. They do not bounce off your hull. They pass straight through it and straight through your body, snapping DNA strands continuously. Not as a rare event you might recover from. Every second of every day of the voyage. On a trip to Mars lasting several months, cancer risk rises significantly. On a journey lasting centuries, the accumulated damage would be fatal many times over. Shielding helps, but shielding is heavy, and heavy feeds catastrophically back into the rocket equation. In zero gravity, bones lose roughly 1% of their density per month. Muscles waste. The heart, no longer working against gravity, shrinks and weakens. Eye pressure changes cause permanent vision damage. After 6 months aboard the International Space Station, which sits barely outside our atmosphere, astronauts return unable to walk without assistance. Now imagine 600 years. Cryogenic sleep sounds elegant until you remember one simple physical fact. Water expands when it freezes. Every cell in your body is mostly water. Freezing a living person causes ice crystals to form inside every cell simultaneously, shredding every membrane from within. Decades of research into cryonics have not solved this. It is not an engineering problem waiting for a better solution. It is a fundamental biological obstacle. Generation ships, communities that live and die over multiple generations until descendants eventually arrive, collide with the inescapable reality of human behavior. Seal hundreds of people in a closed metal environment for 500 years. Social hierarchies will shift and fracture. Cultural memory will distort, and mythology will replace history. The original mission will become something disputed by factions with incompatible interpretations. Genetic diversity, already limited by a small founding population, will narrow dangerously. The people who arrive, if any social structure survives long enough for arrival to occur, will be biologically and culturally unrecognizable. Send machines instead? Silicon is not immune to radiation. High-energy particles flip binary states in memory, introducing errors that compound silently over thousands of years. Metal fatigues, circuits degrade. Micrometeoroids no larger than dust grains, but moving at tens of kilometers per second, strike the hull continuously with the energy of bullets. Over geological timescales, entropy is patient and thorough, and never takes a day off. Even our most sophisticated machines have lifespans. The galaxy is wider than any warranty. We have covered distance, the speed limit of causality, the tyranny of the rocket equation, and the fragility of biology. Any one of these is sufficient to make interstellar contact effectively impossible. But the fifth verdict operates on a scale so vast, it makes all the previous ones feel almost intimate. Humanity has been generating detectable radio signals for about 100 years. That means our electromagnetic bubble is currently roughly 200 light years in diameter. The Milky Way is 100,000 light years across. Our entire century of broadcasting occupies a sphere so small relative to our galaxy that calling it a drop in the ocean would be a dramatic overstatement. We are not shouting into the void. We are whispering into a hurricane. But the deeper problem is not geography. It is time. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. Civilizations rise and fall. The window during which any civilization is technologically capable of communication and still exists is on cosmological timescales an eye blink. Humanity has been technological for perhaps 200 years. We might last another 10,000 if we are wise and fortunate. Against 13.8 billion years, that window is essentially zero. The chances that two civilizations exist simultaneously, within communicable range, at comparable technological stages, with instruments pointed in the right direction at the right moment, approach zero when you calculate them with honest numbers. Someone may have flourished near Proxima Centauri 1 billion years ago. They built instruments, searched the sky, and found silence, because we had not yet arrived. They lasted 100,000 years, which is long for a civilization and invisible for a galaxy, and then they were gone. Their signals have long since passed us, before we had ears to hear them. Not even ruins remain on whatever world they called home. Someone else may rise near that same star 1 billion years from now. By then, whatever has become of humanity will be as alien to them as the creatures of the Cambrian explosion are to us. The tragedy of the universe is not that it is empty. It is that the guests arrive at different times to a party that lasts only a moment, inside a venue so enormous that even simultaneous guests would likely never find each other. Someone always raises this, the Navy footage. Objects accelerating from a dead stop to extraordinary speeds in fractions of a second. After everything we just covered, the idea that something has already solved all 5 verdicts and is here right now would be the most extraordinary discovery in human history. But let's apply the physics. Accelerating that fast generates thousands of G's of force. Biological tissue does not deform at that level. It liquefies. An object moving at those speeds through atmosphere generates a sonic boom audible for hundreds of kilometers and a trail of ionized plasma bright enough to light up the sky. None of this appears in the videos. What appears is a blurry shape on an infrared sensor behaving in ways consistent with known gimbal artifacts and camera limitations. Which is more likely? That an alien civilization solved infinite energy, defeated light speed, crossed thousands of light years, and chose to briefly confuse Navy pilots on a grainy sensor? Or that a camera with documented limitations produced an artifact? If beings with the energy to reach Earth were in our atmosphere, you would not need a video. You would simply know. When you truly accept the 5 verdicts, something shifts. You stop waiting for someone to arrive and start seeing clearly what is actually here. The speed of light is not a cruel joke. It is the foundation of causality itself. Without it, effects could precede causes. History could not exist. The same rule that prevents interstellar travel is the rule that makes a coherent universe possible at all. The silence does not mean we are forgotten. It means we are rare. And rare things carry a weight that common things never acquire. No one is coming to solve our problems. The universe has made clear in 5 ironclad ways that we work with what we have on the world we have. That isolation, when you sit with it, stops feeling like abandonment and starts feeling like purpose. We are not a rest stop on a busy interstellar highway. We are one of the universe's extraordinarily rare experiments in self-awareness. Matter that arranged itself over 13.8 billion years into something capable of looking back at the whole and asking how it works. The carbon in your body was forged inside a dying star. The same processes that built your atoms built the atoms of whatever has ever lived anywhere. We are connected not by ships or signals, but by origin, by the same laws running identically across every corner of existence. The verdicts are real and final. Distance, speed, energy, biology, time. But so are you, right here, right now, understanding all of it. The universe waited 13.8 billion years to produce something capable of comprehending its own silence. That is not a small thing. That is everything. Keep looking up.